Hi, it's Nell, and today I'm going to be doing a video all about pruning two different forms of lantana, a very popular landscape shrub, in the spring. And I'm over in this spot behind my garden because it's 8:30 in the morning and there's a lot of sun angling on both of my patios and in my garden. So I am over here for some shade, and it is almost spring. Technically in Tucson it's spring because the weather is warming up for sure and there's a lot of sun, but it's like a week away till spring, but you know, it's spring. So when I said the two different forms of lantana, lantana is classified as a shrub, and Dallas Red is one that I am going to be pruning, and it is a shrub form. It gets about 4 feet by about 5 feet, and it has a beautiful red, yellow, and orange, flower colors. I just love that stand up in the strong sun here. So that is that one. And the other one is a trailing form. It's a ground cover, and that one is New Gold. And New Gold is also a prolific bloomer. And what else about New Gold? It is a newer, I don't know if it's a cultivar or, variety, whatever you classify it as. And it doesn't seed nearly as much or at all like the other lantanas do. And lantana is a very popular landscape plant. I'm here in Tucson. You see a lot of it here and in Southern California where I used to live. Actually, technically, I lived in, Central California because I lived in Santa Barbara, but it has a climate much more like, Southern California. It was a very, very, not overused, but it was used a lot as a landscape plant. And what is fabulous about this plant, besides the fact that it blooms from spring through fall, is that it attracts hummingbirds and butterflies like crazy. So you know me, I don't mind sharing the love with my winged friends, so I'm happy to provide them with a little bit of food. It is hardy in USDA zones 8 through 11, and I prefer to prune it in the spring. Like our landscapers here, I live in a community, and they prune it really hard down to probably about 6 inches. And they do it in, I think it's November. So I'm going to show you what they do right now. So everything I share on this channel is things I do in my everyday gardening life, things I've learned from experience, and I prefer to prune it in the late winter or early spring, and I don't prune it nearly as hard either. So that's just one camp, prunes it that way. It's the same thing as salvias. Some people prune it in the fall, some people prune in the spring. I prefer to prune my lantanas in the spring, very early spring, late winter, and do it a lot lighter. So as I said, I prune it in the late winter, early spring. If you're on the coast of California, which is more temperate than here, you can definitely do it in, February. You just want to make sure that the danger of hard frosts, like, consecutive ones, have passed. So once the evenings start to warm up, then you can certainly start your pruning on your lantana. And why? Lantana grows fast and it gets a very rangy form to it over time if left unpruned. So it's always good to give it a little bit of a shaping. And you also want to stimulate that new growth because lantana flowers on the new growth. And we want our lantanas to be covered in flowers. So that is a very important reason to prune it. So lantana is a very tough plant. It not only grows fast, but it's very tolerant of a lot of different, conditions, and it can grow in the extreme heat here. It gets a little bit colder. It grows, near the ocean, all that. So this is leading me up to say, don't be afraid to prune it if it's your first time, because it's hard to ruin it. It's not like precise artistic pruning. What you basically want to do is just shape the plant and encourage it to bloom more. And as you'll see soon, it has so much growth on it that you really want to thin it out a bit. I do. I prefer to thin it out. And I also prefer to take up some of the branches on the bottom. But I'll go over all that when I'm starting the pruning. And also, you can find more information in the blog post. And as usual, the link to the blog post that goes along with this video will be in the box down below. And it'll also be on my website, JoyUsGarden.com. Okay, just because they're so pretty in the morning sun, there are two sorrows, and on either side, the ones that kind of glow, those are choyas. And then over to the, I don't know if it's going to be the left or the right on the screen, the one that looks like sticks, that's an ocotillo. You have to be careful where you sit if you live in the desert, because there's a lot of spiny things around. Also when you walk, oh my God, all of a sudden there's so many birds around. So I lost my train of thought because I'm concentrating on the hummingbird right up there. And I don't know what that other bird is. Wow. Anyway, there are three things I want to give you a heads up about. And the first thing is that lantana, the leaves have a somewhat pungent odor. And some people find it not really offensive, but they just don't like it. It doesn't bother me. So if you start to prune a lantana and you smell something, it's just the nature of the plant. And the second thing is, speaking of the leaves, they're almost like a very, very, very fine sandpaper. They have a little bit of grit to them, and they can be an irritant to some people. It's not like poison oak or poison ivy, but it might just give you a little bit of dermatitis if you're sensitive to that sort of thing. I pruned lantana many times, and it doesn't bother me, but just be warned of that. And the third thing is something you really need to be aware of, and that is that the berries of the lantana are toxic. They are actually considered to be very toxic. Nonetheless, this plant is a very popular landscape plant. As I said, I used to live in Santa Barbara. I lived very close to the ocean and the train station. And there was a lot of lantana right around the train station and on the main streets, and in San Diego, I've seen, tons of it. So don't be turned off by that. Just don't be tempted to eat those shiny, they're almost like a dark blue black berry. They almost, look like a blackberry. Don't put them anywhere near your mouth. So here is the new gold. This is the one that is the trailing form. And this one is really easy to prune. You just thin it out a little bit. I take out some of the crossing over stems, and that's about it. I'll focus in on the aeonium for a bit because it's so pretty at this time of year. Anyway, I did a light pruning on my lantanas in mid-November, and I'm going to do the heaviest pruning now, and then, which is, I think it's March, 15th or 14th, and then in mid, summer or early summer, I will give them a little bit more of a light pruning. So you can see this one a little bit closer. Here's the before. I'm only going to show you a few stages because otherwise it's going to be really boring to watch me prune this. So here's before I start. And I just want to tell you that all the crappy old foliage that you see from the previous season is all going to eventually fall off, so you don't have to worry about picking that all off. Okay, so I'm just about done. And I just went through, took out branches, opened it up. There was a little bit of dead, and then I went back and I took some more branches down. And now that I'm looking at it, this side is a little more dense than that side. So I think I'm just going to do a little more thinning back and taking out here. And that will be it for this one. And so far it's only taken me about, 15 minutes to do this. So as I said, it's not, precision pruning. And this is what I got off of it so far, and they'll just bead a little bit more. Okay, so all done. Many pruning jobs I do, I go, oh gosh, that looks so good after it's pruning. This just is like, ugh. But that new growth will be coming out like crazy, and it's all nice and fresh, so that's what you want to encourage. So as you can see, the Dallas Red, the one that is more the shrub type, has a lot thicker and bigger stems. So this one is going to be really easy to prune. And that is my noisy cat Oscar in the background, by the way. Not that this is the most beautiful thing to focus in on, but you can kind of follow along as I'm saying this. So what I do with this one is basically the same. I remove the bottom branches up off the soil because, as you can see, there's so much new growth on it that the new growth is just going to smother that old growth anyway. And then I thin it out as needed. I take out any crossing branches, any weak branches, any dead branches, and then the branches that remain I'm going to take back by about a half. Oh, so in starting the pruning, a few of these stems, I can see one in the back there, it got totally hit by the cold snaps that we had, so I will take those out completely. I wasn't sure if that was dead wood or not. Oscar's tail. Say hi, Oscar. I wasn't sure if that was dead, but it is completely dead, so out comes that. And there's Oscar. He's my old boy. He's out enjoying some morning sunshine. So I'm almost done. I'll try to get another view for you because it's really catching the shadows. Okay, maybe you can see it better over here. And I turned the music off. Oops. So as you can see, it doesn't look fabulous. It looks very awkward. I'm going to take a little bit more back, but it grows so thick and so fast that in like a month, it's going to be gorgeous. So if you're a bit unsure, just take a few small cuts first, and then you can always go back and take more off. That is what I usually do. It's a little bit heavier on this right-hand side, so I'm just going to thin that out a bit. So now it's all nice and open and the sun can get in. And there is my pile from this one over there. Okay, so this is it. The side over there just looks a little bit fuller because it didn't get hit as much by the cold, so it has more of the older foliage on it. And I have to get this video edited now, but in the blog post, I will have pictures, or a picture of this plant that's not in the full sun, so you can get more of a idea of how it looks. Oh, don't you like to have music on when you garden? I always do. Either music or a podcast. So it's time to clean up this and get this video in the works. So I hope you have found this video about pruning lantana to be helpful. And I have a lot more videos coming your way, so stay tuned for those. I thank you for all your likes and your subscribes. I really appreciate them. And if you're into gardens, gardening, plants, flowers, succulents, all that good stuff, be sure to subscribe. And let's see, what else? Oh yes, be sure to check the blog post for more details. And now let's get out in our gardens with our birds and make the world a more beautiful place. As always, I thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.